Gina Chang owns a truck. The rectangular bed of the truck has an area of 60 square feet, and the diagonal across the bed measures 13 feet. Find the dimensions of the bed of the truck. The bed of the truck is in the shape of a rectangle, so we'll let W equal the width of the rectangle in feet, and L equal the length of the rectangle in feet. Our next step is to translate the problem, in other words, write an equation or equations that will help us solve for the length and the width. We first of all are given that the area of the bed is 60 square feet, so we know that 60 is equal to L times W because we have a rectangle and the area of a rectangle is length times width. Now we have an equation that has two unknowns, so we should come up with another equation that will help us solve this problem. We can use the fact that we have a right triangle. Remember, in a right triangle that the sum of the squares of the legs is equal to the square of the hypotenuse. So we can write 13 squared, that's our hypotenuse value, is equal to L squared plus W squared. Simplifying this gives us 169 equals L squared plus W squared. So these two equations will allow us to solve for the length and the width of the rectangle. Step 3 is to carry out, and so we'll use our two equations that we generated in step 2 to help us solve for length and width. The first step is to solve the first equation for L. So we'll have L is equal to 60 divided by W. Just divide both sides of the equation by W. I can then substitute that value in for L into the second equation, so I'll have 169 equals 60 divided by W squared plus W squared. Simplifying a bit gives us 169 equal to, now we need to square 60 and the W. 60 squared is 3600, and then W squared is W squared. So we'll have plus W squared. I'll multiply through by the common denominator, which is W squared, so that will give us 169 W squared equals 3600, because the W squareds divide out in this term here, and then W squared times W squared is W to the fourth. I will set the left-hand side of the equation equal to 0. That means I have subtracted 169 W squared to the right-hand side, and I'll rewrite the equation as W to the fourth minus 169 W squared plus 3600. Now notice that this looks like a quadratic, but it's not exactly. It's a quadratic form, so what we'll do is we'll make a substitution. We'll let U equal W squared. And if I do that, I'll have 0 equal to, now if this is W squared squared would give me U squared minus 169U plus 3600. This indeed is a quadratic equation, so I can use the quadratic formula to solve for U. In this case, A is 1, B is negative 169, and C is 3600. So we'll let U equal, using the quadratic formula, the opposite of B, or 169 plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C. We'll put that all over 2 times A. If we simplify, we'll have 169 plus or minus the square root of, and putting this into a calculator will give us 14,161. We'll divide that by 2. Now, the square root of 14,161 happens to be 119, so this will simplify to 169 plus or minus 119 over 2. We can then set u equal to 169 plus 119 over 2, or u is equal to 169 minus 119 over 2. So we'll have u equal to 144 when we evaluate this first expression, or u will be equal to 25 when we evaluate the second expression. Remember that we're trying to find w instead of u. We said that u was equal to w squared, so we can rewrite this as w squared equals 144, or w squared equals 25. We can take the square root of both sides of this equation. Remember that when we do that, we need to write the plus or minus version of the root. And I'll do the same thing over here. Take the square root of both sides. So we'll have w is equal to plus or minus 12, or w is equal to plus or minus 5. That means that w is equal to 12 or negative 12, and w is equal to 5 or negative 5. However, remember that w represents a width, which is a measurement. So in this case, we have w is equal to just 12, or w is equal to just 5. Now, we need to find the length that is associated with each of those width measurements. We can do that by using the fact that the length is 60 divided by the width. So in this case, if the width is 12, the length, 60 divided by 12, will be 5. If the width is 5, we will use the same formula. We will have length equal to 60 divided by 5, which happens to be 12. So when the width is 12, the length is 5, and the width is 5, the length is 12. So we can take either answer because it represents the same thing. We were asked to give the dimensions of the truck bed, so we know that the dimensions are 5 feet by 12 feet.